Have you ever had someone steal your work right in front of your face? Well, let me tell you about the time my coworker thought she could claim my entire project, and how it backfired spectacularly. My name is Jessica, and I work as a marketing analyst at Henderson Creative Solutions in downtown Chicago. The wind was brutal that March morning as I hurried into our glass office building, clutching my coffee and laptop. I had no idea this would be the day everything changed. I settled into my desk by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Michigan Avenue. The morning light illuminated the stack of research papers I'd been working on for weeks. This wasn't just any project. This was the Morrison Hotels account, a potential $12 million deal. "Morning, Jess," called out Marcus Thompson, a graphic designer I actually trusted. "How's the Morrison presentation coming along?" "Almost done," I replied, just finalizing the customer segmentation analysis. What Marcus didn't know was that I'd been staying late every night for 2 weeks, analyzing hotel booking trends and creating predictive models that could revolutionize Morrison's marketing strategy. I discovered an untapped market segment I called micro-adventure seekers, everyday people looking for unique experiences with limited time and budget. The numbers were incredible, a 43% increase in bookings if implemented correctly. But here's where things get interesting. Sitting 3 desks away was Veronica Castellanos, our team's senior marketing strategist. She had perfectly styled auburn hair, expensive suits, and made everything sound like a board meeting. Veronica was the type who'd schedule a meeting to discuss scheduling another meeting. "Jessica," she said, appearing at my desk with her signature clipboard. "I need to discuss the Morrison project." My stomach dropped. "What about it?" As the senior strategist, I think it would be appropriate for me to present the findings to the client. She said it matter-of-factly, like discussing the weather. "Veronica, this is my project. I've been working on it for weeks. The research, analysis, strategy, everything is mine." She tilted her head with a patronizing smile. "I'm not questioning your contribution, Jessica, but Morrison Hotels expects someone with more experience presenting to C-level executives." The office felt too quiet. I could sense Marcus pretending not to listen. Other colleagues typed loudly, aware of the tension. "I have plenty of experience presenting," I said, trying to keep steady. "And this is my work." "We'll see what Mr. Davidson thinks," she replied, referring to our department head. "I've already scheduled a meeting with him for this afternoon." As she walked away, I felt a familiar knot in my stomach. This wasn't the first time someone tried to take credit for my work, but it was the most blatant. I spent the morning refining my presentation, preparing arguments for why I should present to Morrison Hotels. But as I stared at months of work on my screen, I had no idea that Veronica's attempt to steal my project would soon become the biggest mistake of her career. The meeting with Mr. Davidson was in Conference Room B at 2:30. I arrived early with my materials organized. Veronica was already there with a thick binder spread before our department head. Robert Davidson was in his 50s, always wore navy suits, and drummed his fingers when thinking. He'd been with Henderson Creative for over a decade with a reputation for being fair, but decisive. "Veronica has brought concerns about the Morrison Hotels presentation," he said. "She feels it would be better if she took the lead given the project's scope." "Mr. Davidson, this is my project," I said firmly. "I've worked on it exclusively for weeks. The research, analysis, entire strategy is my work." "I'm not disputing Jessica's contributions," Veronica interjected smoothly. "But Morrison expects a senior-level presentation." Mr. Davidson drummed his fingers. "Let me see the presentation materials." I handed him my folder, while Veronica slid her binder across. As he flipped through pages, I noticed something that made my blood run cold. The graphs, customer segmentation charts, predictive models, even the color scheme. Everything in Veronica's binder was identical to my work. "Veronica, where did you get these materials?" I asked carefully. "I've been working on this project alongside you. These are my analyses based on the same data sets." It was a lie. The formatting, specific terminology, even a small typo I'd noticed but hadn't fixed, it was all there. "This is interesting work," Mr. Davidson said. "The micro-adventure seeker segment is particularly insightful." "Thank you," Veronica replied, as if she'd coined the term herself. I felt physically nauseous. "Mr. Davidson, I can show you timestamps on my computer files, research history, browser data, everything proving this work is mine." "That won't be necessary," he said, closing both folders. Veronica, you have more experience with major client presentations. You'll take the lead. Jessica, you can assist with any data questions. Assist her with my own work. The presentation is Thursday at 10 a.m., Mr. Davidson continued. Morrison's marketing director, Sarah Chen, will be there with their VP of Customer Experience. I'm looking forward to presenting the micro-adventure strategy, Veronica replied confidently. That evening, I stayed late in the empty office, staring at my computer screen. But then something occurred to me. Veronica might have stolen my presentation, but she hadn't stolen my understanding. She had slides and charts, but not the process, reasoning, or deep knowledge behind it. I smiled for the first time that day. Sarah Chen had a reputation for asking very specific, technical questions. She wanted to understand methodology, not just hear conclusions. And there was one particular line in my analysis, a specific calculation crucial to the entire strategy, that I hadn't documented anywhere. It was in my head, based on a unique algorithm I'd developed. If anyone asked about it, Veronica would have no idea how to respond. Thursday couldn't come fast enough. Thursday morning arrived crisp and clear. I dressed carefully in my best navy blazer and grandmother's pearl earrings. Today was about justice. The Morrison presentation was in our main conference room. Veronica arrived at 9:15, impeccable in her charcoal suit, carrying a leather portfolio with that confident stride. "Morning, Jessica," she said. "I might need you to clarify data points if questions come up." "Of course," I replied neutrally. At 9:45, the Morrison team arrived. Sarah Chen was exactly as I'd imagined. Mid-30s, sharp suit, glasses that suggested she spent time with data. James Morrison, their VP, was tall with gray hair and commanding presence. "I'd like you to meet Veronica Castellanos," Mr. Davidson said, our senior marketing strategist leading the Morrison analysis. I took a seat at the table's far end. Veronica positioned herself confidently at the front. The presentation began smoothly. Veronica read through slides methodically, discussing demographics, booking patterns, and market trends. She sounded professional, hitting all my key points. But I watched Sarah Chen taking notes, preparing questions. James Morrison listened intently, arms crossed. Veronica reached the micro-adventure seekers slide. "This segment represents 37% of your potential market," she said, "but they're underserved by traditional hotel marketing." "Interesting," Sarah Chen said. "How did you identify this segment? What methodology did you use?" I watched Veronica's confidence waver slightly. "We used advanced data analytics, examining booking patterns across multiple demographics." Could you be more specific? What kind of analytics? Which data sets?" "We looked at social media engagement, travel platforms, customer surveys." Veronica glanced at her notes more frequently. "And the algorithm for predicting the 43% booking increase?" James Morrison asked. "How did you calculate that specific number?" This was it. That increase wasn't random. It was from a complex predictive model I'd built, incorporating seasonal variations, regional preferences, and behavioral triggers. The calculation involved a specific formula I'd developed, but never fully documented. "The calculation involves multiple variables," Veronica said carefully. "Customer acquisition costs, lifetime value projections, market penetration rates." "Yes, but the specific formula," Sarah Chen leaned forward. "Page 15 shows adjusted seasonal coefficient, 1.247 multiplied by regional preference index. How did you arrive at that 1.247 figure?" My heart raced. That line was the cornerstone of my prediction model, based on analyzing 3 years of booking data cross-referenced with weather patterns, local events, and economic indicators. The 1.247 coefficient resulted from hundreds of hours of analysis, methodology I'd never written down. Veronica stared at the page, confidence finally cracking. "The coefficient is derived from seasonal booking variations. But how specifically?" Sarah Chen pressed. "What data inputs? Sample size? How did you validate the model?" Silence. Veronica looked at notes, then Mr. Davidson, then back at Morrison's team. "The methodology is quite complex." "I'm sure it is," James Morrison said dryly. "That's why we'd like to understand it." I couldn't stay silent. "May I clarify that calculation?" All eyes turned to me. Veronica looked panicked. Mr. Davidson confused. Sarah Chen, intrigued. Please, Sarah said. We'd appreciate insight. The 1.247 coefficient comes from regression analysis of 36 months of booking data. I began, walking forward. I analyzed over 2 million records, cross-referencing local weather data, event calendars, and economic indicators for each region. I moved to the whiteboard. Base seasonal variation is 1.0, but micro-adventure seekers have different booking patterns. They're more likely to book during shoulder seasons, more responsive to weather forecasts, and influenced by local events. Sarah Chen nodded, taking notes rapidly. So you weighted the seasonal coefficient based on behavioral differences? Exactly. The 247 adjustment accounts for micro-adventure seekers being 47% more likely to book during non-peak periods if conditions are met. Favorable weather forecast, local events, and promotional pricing below peak rates. Brilliant, James Morrison said, sitting forward. You validated this model? I tested it against 6 months of held-back booking data. The model predicted actual bookings with 92% accuracy. Complete silence except for Sarah Chen's pen on paper. Mr. Davidson stared at me with an unreadable expression. Veronica looked like she wanted to disappear. Jessica, Sarah Chen said slowly, are you saying you developed this entire analysis? Before I could answer, Veronica jumped in. Jessica assisted with data collection. We worked together. Actually, I said clearly, I developed this analysis independently. Every methodology, calculation, and insight comes from my research. I can provide timestamps on files, browser history, even coffee shop receipts from dozens of late nights working on this. The silence stretched. Finally, Sarah Chen spoke. Mr. Davidson, we need to discuss who actually created this analysis, because whoever did this work understands our business better than we do. The conference room felt electric after Sarah Chen's statement. Mr. Davidson's face went through several color changes. Confusion, realization, mortification. Perhaps we should take a brief recess, he said, standing abruptly. Jessica, Veronica, I need to speak with you both immediately. In the smaller conference room, Mr. Davidson closed the door, his usual composure gone. Would someone explain what just happened? He asked, voice tight with controlled anger. I can explain, I said quickly. Veronica took my presentation materials and claimed my work. The entire Morrison analysis is mine. I contributed to strategic direction, Veronica said weakly. What strategic direction? I interrupted. You couldn't explain the seasonal coefficient methodology because you didn't do the work. Mr. Davidson sat heavily. Jessica, do you have proof this work is yours? I have everything. Computer timestamps, research files, browser history, email correspondence with data vendors, draft versions showing my analysis evolution. I can prove every piece came from my research. And I can prove Veronica accessed my files without permission. Shared drive logs show she downloaded my materials yesterday afternoon while I was in meetings. Veronica's face went pale. I was reviewing teamwork. There is no team, I said firmly. There's my work, which you stole, and your inability to explain it. Mr. Davidson rubbed his temples. Veronica, did you take Jessica's work? Silence stretched uncomfortably. Finally, Veronica whispered, I thought I could present it better. I have more experience with major clients. You thought you could present work you didn't understand? Mr. Davidson's voice rose. Do you know how embarrassing this is? A knock interrupted. Marcus Thompson appeared. Sorry, but the Morrison team wants to speak with Jessica privately. When I returned to the main conference room, Sarah Chen and James Morrison stood by the windows. Jessica, Sarah said, we need to ask directly. Are you the person who actually created this analysis? Yes, I replied without hesitation. Every piece of it. The micro-adventure concept, seasonal coefficient calculation, booking prediction model, all of it? All of it. I spent 3 weeks analyzing your data, 2 weeks developing predictive models, another week creating marketing strategy. I can walk you through every step. James Morrison smiled for the first time. That's what we hope to hear. This analysis isn't just good, it's revolutionary, Sarah continued. You've identified patterns we never noticed. Your micro-adventure segment could transform our entire approach. But we need to work with the person who understands this data, James added. Not someone reading slides. We want to offer you a position, Sarah said. Morrison Hotels needs a director of customer analytics. Based on today, you're exactly what we need. I felt breathless. What? Competitive salary, full benefits, your own team to develop insights for our entire portfolio, James explained. We're implementing your micro-adventure strategy across 47 hotels in 12 states. The position is based here in Chicago, Sarah added. You'd report to me with budget to build the analytics department this analysis shows you're capable of creating. I don't know what to say. Say you'll consider it, Sarah replied. We'll send the formal offer by end of day. As they left, James turned back. Jessica, what you've created changes businesses. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise. The next hour was a blur. Mr. Davidson formally apologized and offered me a promotion. Veronica cleared her desk and left with security, terminated for misrepresentation of intellectual property. The most satisfying moment came packing my desk. I found a note from Marcus. I heard everything through the walls. I've waited 2 years for someone to stand up to Veronica like that. You're a badass, Jess. Go change the world. 3 weeks later, I started as Director of Customer Analytics at Morrison Hotels. Within 6 months, implementing the micro-adventure strategy increased bookings by 51%, and customer satisfaction reached all-time highs. But the best part wasn't success, salary, or vindication. It was learning about standing up for my work, the importance of understanding rather than just presenting, and how truth reveals itself when it matters most. Because you can steal someone's presentation, but you can't steal their knowledge. And when it matters, knowledge is everything. Sometimes the best revenge is simply being better at your job than the person trying to take credit. And sometimes the universe ensures the right person gets recognized, even if it takes public embarrassment to make it happen.